Welcome to the Growth Guys Podcast, presented by KinderReeseCoaching.com. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents who are serious about growing their business. Get the strategies and tactics to grow your business fast while building the lifestyle you dream of. Now, sit back, buckle up, and get ready, because we're about to get real. The Growth Guys Podcast starts right now.
Welcome to today's episode of the Growth Guys Podcast. It's Jeff Kiani here as always with John Kitchens. What's up, John?
What's happening? How's Mr. Kiani today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day in Grapevine. How are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Beautiful day up here, and we got a Salina address, but we're Prosper ISD. We're right across the street from Prosper High School. So, I mean, I don't know.
It's like Friday Night Lights out there. It's like Friday Night Lights out there where Kitchens is at.
Man, you should see the stadium. Kinder got to see the new stadium going up. It is unbelievable. You go by, I mean, it is a D1 looking stadium, and it's Prosper High School's football stadium, and it's massive. And Kinder was going by, and I was like, hey, that field is sunken. It's like Toyota Stadium sunken down, but you can't tell from looking at it. It looks like it's like level. That's how big it is. It's unbelievable.
Man, I bet we were in Cincinnati for that mastermind a couple months ago. That stadium in Prosper is probably nicer than that Bengals stadium that we saw.
It is definitely nicer than the Cincinnati Bengals stadium. I would wager that.
Well, man, today's episode is going to be focused on people, talking about the Bengals. We could probably parlay that into our discussion today about getting the right people on the team. But people are important. Those are the batteries for life's little remote. You know what I mean? People power everything up. And I want to kind of get in today, Kitchens, about your perspective on the process of hiring the right people. Also really like creating the core values that you want to indoctrinate in your business. I think that's something that a lot of people probably haven't spent the time or as much time as they should in really determining what those are. To give everybody an example, like in our office, I mean, we had them printed on laminate sheets. We had artwork created, canvas artwork that, pointed out our core values. And so, what's the process, Kitchens, that you would suggest people go through in trying to hone in on that?
Yeah, man, you nailed it. It's They really are the decision-making filters within your organization, and they stem from you, right? As the business owner, the business creator, the designer, and really, getting clear on what your values are. And, it's a great exercise to where you can, you pull up and you identify 20, 25 values, things that you value. And then, you cut that in half, and then you cut it in half, and you get it all the way down to where you have three true values that are at your core. And there's aspirational values, things that we aspire to, but really what are the things at your core that, are non-negotiable, that, Jay always likes to say, man, I'll fight you over these. Right. And you just create those, guidelines, really those decision-making filters. And, one of the things that we see people get tripped up with the most is that they want to go in and they want to hire out of pain instead of hire for gain. And they go so quick, and they'll, there's nothing wrong with pulling the trigger and making a hire quick, but you need to do a little due diligence, and really the most important diligence that you need to do is you need to make sure that they align to who you are, align to those values. Because what will happen is that over time, if they're not aligned to who you are, one, they're going to become miserable, right? They're going to become absolutely miserable, and then they become a cancer, a virus within your organization. And so one, I think a lot of people don't think about that a lot, Jeff, is that, they get so frustrated with this one person, but they don't put themselves in that person's shoes. Right. if they're not in alignment to the values, that person's miserable. And so the best thing that you can do is free up their future, and allow them to go somewhere where they can, connect to who they align with. But, that's, to me, man, that's where it all starts. It really starts at getting clear. You have to know your values before you can hire to it or bring people in and align to it at that point.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of our core value material here, and just to recite some of it, this is good stuff. Their core values and beliefs are the philosophical underpinnings of your business. They're things that last forever. They exist regardless of your business model or your product offering. So regardless of all those factors, the core values exist. And they're a statement of who you are, what you stand for, and how your business runs. And what we're talking about is articulating your core values and beliefs to discover and state what is, not what you aspire to be. And these are just some of the things that we created, in our business with NAEA and some of the other business units to really get clear on what those are. We've broken it down into core values and beliefs, purpose, and mission. And that reflects back on our last couple episodes. Purpose and mission. So, if you really work your way through the process, getting clear, identifying your purpose, then making the decision on what your core values are is a little bit easier, right?
And actually that's where they start, right? Is getting in. And, Collins talks about your purpose is born from your values. And, one of the things to help identify, and I always joke, women have that, it's intuition, right? It's that, I think Holly's got the best bullshit detector I've ever seen in my life. And it's because what happens is that if somebody's not living to who they are, right? If they're not living true to their values, it's without going down some rabbit hole, it's the energy that we put off. And us guys, we can pick up on it, but the ladies, they're able to really, it's just inherently in who they are, and they can just tell right away. And if you've ever been out and like, for example, Holly, like, man, something's off with that dude, right? Something's off with that person. And what it is that they're not being true. They're not living in alignment to their values. And so that's really where it all starts. And, too, man, we've done it. We've made hires. People are like skilled beyond belief, man. They got a talent, and they come in, especially on the sales side, and they come in, and then, man, they're off, right? And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time that they're going to be on their way, going to do something else. And it's just like I said, one, you're either going to give them the boot because they're not really living in alignment to who you guys are as an organization, or like I said, they're just going to be miserable and they're going to go find something else to do. And that's why it's super important. For us, I mean, it's grading on two things. It's grading on the skill set and the ability to get the job done at hand. And then also how do they rate on the core values? And, like for us, for example, one of my values personally, but also the one that we've always had in every organization that I've been a part of, is really just a continuous growth value. And, it's been, we've called it living, learn like you're going to live forever, however it's been worded, but from a growth standpoint. And that one's really important to me. And I only, want to make sure that we're constantly surrounding ourselves with people that are in alignment and focus on growth. I mean, shoot, I mean, look at you. I mean, you're consuming something new every day, learning a new skill, just constant feeding yourself knowledge. And I mean, I don't know about you, brother, but I mean, I love spending time with people like that. I love spending time with people like that. So, it's really key, man, to get clear on those values. And, think about it. I mean, how much dang time do you spend with the people that you work with? Right?
Yeah. spend a lot of time with them for sure.
So,
and if you're not, if they're the wrong people, just imagine with all that time spent, how that affects the time that you spend with the people that you don't work with.
That's right.
Like if you spend 8 hours a day in an office surrounded by a bunch of people you don't like, when you come home, you're probably not the most pleasant person, man. And determining your core values is we've talked about, it's not always easy for everybody to hone in on. I think 3 questions that I have heard used to try to hone in on that are, what values are essential to your life? 3 questions. What values are essential to your life? What values represent your primary way of being? That's a great one, right? Like, what values represent the ideal person, the best version of you, the primary way that you would want to be, that perfect you? What are the values that person has? And what values are essential to supporting your inner self? It's like when you were saying something earlier about these are the things that you would fight over, like innately, nobody wants to see a dog die in a movie. They're fine with seeing Fred die or Sarah die, but don't let the dog, don't kick a puppy. I mean, that's a core value that every human being, for the most part, is born with. Nobody needs to teach you that. Like, nobody needs to tell you not to kick a puppy. That's a real core value. I mean, at least for me it is.
I think for a lot of people it is, man. That definitely hits home. Read through there, some of the core values and that we've really adopted over the years and really have embraced. I can tell you too, man, less is more when it comes to the core values. And the reason is that if you have too many, your people really don't pay attention to it. Right. And it's too hard for them to look at and embrace. And so, really trying to distill it down to as few as possible is ideal for, what it is that you really want to have as the driving forces within your organization.
So here's our core values started with growth mindset. And so I remember when we would interview people, the interview process would kind of go like, this interview is not really to determine whether or not you're going to be, the ideal candidate. What we really want to do is get familiar with you and understand you and have you have the opportunity to learn a little bit about us. We operate based on core values. One of those core values is what we call growth mindset. And we would have these discussions with candidates and we would talk to them about our core values. And then we would ask them questions to reflect what they did in certain situations. Really what we're trying to do is see if they're a match core value wise. And so it was growth mindset. It was add value. It was 100-0. We believe in accepting 100% responsibility in all situations and reject the victim mentality.
That's a big one. And, and because that's how we are. And this is why it's critical, guys. If you don't get that right, you're going to bring people on that might not have that same value, that same mindset, and it's going to drive you just batshit crazy, and they're just going to frustrate you, and it's not worth it. So that's why you got to get clear on it, and you got to go through it in the hiring process, like Jeff's mentioning here. You
got like that person that you can't get to do their listing presentation the way that you've trained them. That person who's not following the instructions through the transaction coordinating process, that buyer's agent who isn't following up on leads. Do they have a growth mindset? Doesn't sound like it. And so this is where before you get people on the bus, you're checking their ticket at the door to make sure that they're on the right bus. That person who's always about them, if there's no commission tied to it, they don't want to do nothing. Does that person have an add value? Core value? Probably not. 100-0, they always saying it's somebody else's fault, or are they saying I screwed up? 100-0. And another one that was one of our favorites is open and real. We believe we owe it to each other to be open and real, meaning I'm going to tell you when your shit is shit and when you're wrong and when you're right. If you got people that are not willing to have that discussion, that's not a core value fit. So as I'm going through talking to people, it's real. If I am disciplined and consciously looking for a match for these things, then the people that are inside should be the right people. The last one, which was always our favorite at the end of our interviews, we would say, and we would do a group interview. So whoever got this question, we'd kind of go one by one. Whoever got to this one was good. And that was, this one's kind of funny. It's our last core value, but it is that we get shit done. That's what it is. I'm literally looking at our core value printout taken in the interview. We believe in hiring A players is what we were trying to say. And that A players hit their goals. They always find a way to get shit done. And man, just revisiting this, sheesh. Like if I get somebody who's a match on all 5 of those, I got a good person on the team.
You do, man. You got somebody that you can really that's gonna be a self-starter, that's gonna put in the work, that's gonna try to get better each and every day. And that's what you're looking for. And at the end of the day, too, guys, it's surrounding the self with people that are in alignment, and it is absolutely critical early on. Now, you get into you're a major corporation, and you might want to try to bring in some people that kind of buck the system a little bit to give you a different perspective. But in our business at our stages, we want to really, really adhere to hiring to the values. It's absolutely, it's a necessity. It's critical. And a couple things that you said there too, the open and real is fantastic. You got to, just be open to having those tough conversations. You also have to be careful to not use those as a weapon. And what we mean by using it as a weapon is, you don't want to walk up and say, Jeff, you're being a real douchebag, right? And just like, Jeff, and then Jeff's like, well, hold on. And then, using it as a weapon would be, well, Jeff, I'm just being open and real, right? That's using it as a weapon. That's not how you want to use it. And so there's definitely a right way to go about it, and really adhering and really embracing coaching, training, hiring, firing, inspiring to your values is really what you want to really embrace them as.
It's probably, when you're going outside of your core values is probably where most of the anxiety comes from. Like if you're, if you're just naturally you've got your own current, go with it. Like when you start to go against your own current, stuff happens. You know what I mean? You make the wrong decisions that aren't really authentic to what you should. It's hard to make that decision because you're going against the current. You know what I mean? And that should probably tell you something. Open and real, to give our listeners an example, we would ask these questions as part of our interview process as well. And for open and real, what we would do is we'd ask them questions related to these core values. And we had 2 questions for open and real. And it was, what has someone critiqued you on in the past and how has it affected you? Right. And so that's going to give me an idea of if the person I'm talking to is vulnerable enough to admit when they were critiqued, and were they conscious enough and aware enough to be able to articulate it now, right, what they got out of it, versus somebody who didn't even listen to that criticism, went one ear out the other. So when you hear the answers that people give you, you can really learn a lot about it. And the second question was, tell me about a time you had to work closely with someone that you disagreed with often. And that reminds me, when you said in a bigger organization, you want to get people that maybe buck the system, right? Mm-hmm. And I think even in a small organization, the key is not to get people that are like you. And I know that in some way is the opposite of what we would think. But listen, growth mindset, that's a growth mindset. It doesn't mean that you have to grow the same way that I grow. Like if I'm reading a book that I like and you don't like it, but you're reading another book you do like, that's growth mindset. Hey, go grow. You don't have to do it the exact way that I do it. If you add value in a different way that I add value, cool. You don't need to be like me as long as we're both adding value, right? And so it's not about finding somebody who does everything the way that you want or that is like you in all their actions. It's their beliefs, right? I go, some person, you can help people grow a million ways. You can add value a million ways. Matter of fact, to have people that do it in a different way than I do, that's a real asset.
Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that I, love about you and working with you is that, you bring a different perspective. We align with our values, but, you bring a whole different perspective, and, you are not afraid to share that perspective. And even if, and it's not like you're trying to be, and that's the thing too, guys, it's like, we're not trying to be right. We're just trying to get to right. And when you've got people that align with you from a value perspective, you're able to have those type of conversations. And that's why it's so critical to get the right people around you, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off, things that are important to you, positivity. I don't want to be around negative people. And Jeff, I know you don't either. And so, it's really important to do the work and uncover what's important to you. And here's the thing. If you're not sure and you're kind of working through it, I know for us in the beginning, we sat back on our whiteboard in the office in Lawton, and we just said, man, the people that have been with us that we love working with, what makes them who they are? And we would pull out one word and we would throw that word up on the board. And I bet we had 20, 25 different things up on the board, different values that we really liked. And over a period of time, and this is what I would challenge all of you guys if you're really working through them, is don't go through this process and then run out and get the tattoo. Let it marinate for a little bit. We had, 20, 25 on there, and we would just look at it every now and then and like go cross one off or add another one or circle one, be like, man, this is it. This is it. And that's how ours really got born. And, we had like 12 or 13, maybe 14 in the beginning, and then it got distilled down. I think, there's maybe about 8 or 9 right now. Could it be distilled down to about 6? I would love for it to be, and, I've even just heard, read some stuff recently that, get it down to 3. And if you can get it to 3, those, your organization really becomes a lot tighter. Your people become a lot tighter because they're really embodying and living those values that you represent, that your company represents. And so definitely do the work and go through that is absolutely key. There are the shoulds and should nots. Like I said, decision-making filters too. I know I mentioned that. I want to touch on that real quick, is that you start to give your people and your team the autonomy to start making decisions. And so every time they make a decision and maybe it was wrong, but you look back and wasn't in alignment to the values. If it was, then it wasn't wrong. We just didn't get the outcome we were after. And so, I give you, giving you example, get shit done, right? Somebody took it, ran with it, got it going. Maybe it wasn't, optimized at the level it was, but it's up and running. Now we can optimize it and we can work on it. Or if it didn't work, we can scrap it and start all over. So that's just really good. It's good for your people to know kind of the boundaries and what they can, give them a framework to run with.
Yeah, you mentioned, whittling it down to 3 things too. And I remembered, it's funny you said 3 things because I wrote 3 things. And as you were saying it, I remembered we used to give a presentation to the managing brokers that would come to our ISA boot camp. They'd go in a separate room. Other ISAs were getting trained, and the ISAs would be sitting in that cubicle room, sweating bullets, and getting told to get on the phone and make some calls. Meanwhile, their managing broker is in the other room going, well, how's my ISA doing? How's Charlie doing in there on the phone? But we would talk about A players, and bringing it down to 3 simple things, we would always center that conversation around looking for people that were hungry, smart, and humble. Mm-hmm. And if you have to distill it down to 3 real simple labels as to what you're looking for, I think that those are 3 good ones: hungry, smart, and humble. And smart doesn't mean that they went to Harvard and they're, magna cum laude or something. Smart means that, they're smart in their interaction and communication with people. They have people skills. They are smart at thinking on their feet, being able to adapt because your cheese is always going to move. There are people that have common sense and they don't get that, if there's a wave coming, well, let's move, man. Don't just stand there and get washed over by it. They're common sense. And so that's what we really mean by smart. But I know you remember that. Hungry, smart, and humble. We talked about it for days.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can unpack that smart a little bit more and really just in it falls into the emotional intelligence of that human being. Right. And, the emotional intelligence is the self-awareness, right? They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. They're able, like you said, control their emotions. That's self-regulation is a huge, huge thing. They're internally, they're motivated, right? They don't need, and that's the thing too, where a lot of people get hung up is like, man, I need to motivate my people. And the truth is you can't motivate anybody. You can inspire them. The motivation comes from within. So, your smart people, they're motivated. And then the big one is empathy, right? They understand and take into consideration that, we know everybody has a situation going on that they're dealing with in their head, and having the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes is key. And so, yeah, if you had to just get it down to 3 things when you look at bringing people on board, man, there's nothing better than those 3.
And you got to look out for it. You got to be purposeful in the questions that you ask, be active listening when you're talking to people, and really look for the match. I mean, it's not always going to be, it's not always going to stand out and be easy. You got to find it, right? Anybody can act hungry, smart, and humble, but you ask them some questions and you really listen to how they respond, and you find out who really is. But you got to know that that's what you're looking for. So people is super important at the end of the day, of course. And I think we'll wrap up today's episode, man, unless you got some other stuff you want to talk about.
Man, A players, you nailed it. That's what you're looking for. And, a great mentor of ours told us that, B players are people you spend time with rather than your family. And so, when you realize that, you're like, okay, got it. I'm looking for A players. So, and awesome stuff, Jeff.
Yes, sir. So you guys, if you want to talk more, dig deep into how we can help you grow your business, maybe help you identify who the right people are that you need to bring on your team, be sure and go to kinderreese.com and schedule a growth call, and we'll jump on the phone with you and spend some time to see what we can do to help you grow your business. So be sure and check out kinderreese.com if that interests you. And this is the end of today's episode. We'll see you next time.
Awesome.
To find out how to build a 7-figure real estate business in 3 years or less, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. You've been listening to the Growth Guys Podcast. If you want us to help you grow your real estate business, go to kinderreesecoaching.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Growth Guys Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix to get new, fresh weekly episodes. Catch you next time on the Growth Guys Podcast.